Before I start my speech today, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and honor the Ohlone and Choqueño tribes and all of the original indigenous peoples of the lands upon which California State University East Bay now stands. Boy, what a difference a year makes. Last August, I stood on the theater stage for the first time as Senate Chair and welcomed you all to a new academic year, one in which the notion that a pandemic would fundamentally disrupt our society, force our campus to close, and cause a switch to predominantly online instruction was something more suited to a dystopian science fiction novel than to a convocation speech. But yet, here we are, socially distanced, masked and gloved, watching our convocation welcome on a pre-recorded video, all of us fearful to some degree for the health and welfare of ourselves, our faculty and staff colleagues, and our students as we work together to deliver on our educational mission and conduct our daily lives in a society ill-prepared and ill-equipped to respond to a virus for which, as yet, we have no vaccine. These are not normal times, yet nevertheless, we must forge ahead with the normal business of educating our students and conducting our university processes. And we do so without a loss of quality, even though the logistic, fiscal, and personnel challenges we face are enormous. Looking back on what we accomplished in the spring and over the summer to keep things on the rails, I want to say how enormously proud I am of our staff and faculty colleagues and of our students. I'm particularly grateful to my shared governance colleagues, our students, staff, faculty, and administrators, who took part in Senate and standing committees and in the 2 rapid action advisories that responded to the unfolding crisis and put in place the policy modifications needed to sustain effective pedagogy and to support our students. We showed, and we continue to show, great ingenuity, creativity, resilience, and cohesiveness while experiencing a whole gamut of emotions and challenges: anxiety, dismay, frustration, stress, isolation, and loneliness. Different people have experienced these emotions and challenges in very different ways, and there have been great inequities in the way the pandemic has affected our community, particularly economically. The inequities continue to manifest themselves differently by race and ethnicity, by age, by gender, and by class. And we need to remain mindful of that as we continue our governance work and our efforts to provide our staff and faculty with a safe and nurturing work environment, and our students with a quality and equitable educational experience regardless of, or rather in spite of, their personal circumstances. We must also recognize that the parallel events to this pandemic, the killing of George Floyd, many of his fellow Black Americans, and other Americans of color at the hands of police officers across the country, has placed added stresses on our community and especially on our Black staff, faculty, and students. We must continue to demonstrate a level of care, compassion, sensitivity, and openness to each other and to our students that reflects both the ongoing challenges of the pandemic and the institutional racism within our society and, by extension, within our university that many, myself included, have clearly not done enough to recognize or challenge in the past. Our Senate leadership, myself, Ryan Hereford, and Michelle Rippey, are committed to making the Academic Senate a space for such collective care, support, and encouragement as we move forward together in this new academic year to confront these challenges. Together, we will review our policies and procedures to respond to the ongoing pandemic, and we will identify any ways they might exacerbate or fail to address long-standing and hidden inequities, especially those of a racial nature, in our processes and outcomes. The recent report issued by the Select Committee on the Master Plan for Higher Education in California pointed out how low-income and underrepresented students graduate at lower rates than their peers, and that equity gaps are a problem of practice, not deficits in the abilities of students. Improving access and success among groups historically underrepresented in higher education, including low-income students, first-generation college students, Latinx and African American students, is essential to our mission and to California society. Now, this is not news to us at CSU and at East Bay. Through our graduation initiative, GI 2025, we've been trying our best to address these inequities. But we've not made as much progress as we had hoped, and thus will need to work even harder this coming year to achieve our institutional goals. A major grant from the Stupski Foundation to address the advising piece of this equation will be of great help, and I want to congratulate the Provost and his team for securing this award. But we can support this effort in the classroom. It's in the classroom where many of us listening to these welcome speeches today will make the most difference, through greater efforts to deliver culturally responsive and inclusive pedagogy, an effort that the Provost will support with the faculty learning community this year on this subject. In reading the Master Plan report, I was struck by the statistic that in California, 64% of the tenured faculty and leadership in the CSU, and 62% and 72% respectively of the leadership and tenured faculty in the community colleges and UCs are reported to be white, while only 23% of the 2.8 million undergraduates in higher education are of this ethnicity in California. Clearly, this has to change. And as we enter into a new phase of shared governance and the hiring of administrators such as the Dean of Cs and our President, and of new faculty in programs such as my own AGES, we must bear this statistic in mind. I've been encouraged this summer by the organic mobilization of many faculty, staff and students around the issue of institutional racism and in support of efforts to close the equity gap. Many of our colleagues and our students have organized and participated in protests across the Bay Area, and on our campus, they've joined forces in the Alliance for the Black Community, the White Anti-Racist Collective, and the Undocu Ally Task Force. And almost 650 staff and faculty signed an open letter to our students professing our commitment to combating racism and anti-blackness, to promoting social justice, and to achieving equitable success for all our students. I've also been encouraged this summer by the willingness of our administration to engage in discourse on these and other topics. For example, in the weekly meetings and frank discussions we've held between our Senate leadership and President Marishta and Provost Inch, and in the strategic planning process chaired by Vice President Espinosa and Provost Inch, which is doubling down on addressing structural inequities within our student outcomes. The strategic plan is committing to making student resource centers for our African American and undocumented students a reality, adding to commitments in support of campus efforts, in support of staff coordinator positions for campus efforts for both of these student groups. Looking at the year ahead, it seems, from all evidence, that we're about to enter the first of a multi-year economic crisis that will see our university budget shrink. This raises the specter of layoffs of staff and faculty and makes the role of the Senate, which appoints each year the University Committee on Layoffs to advise our president, and our committees like COBRA, which advises the university administration and particularly the provost on our spending priorities, even more important than usual. It requires that our Senate work together with our administration and our unions, especially the California Faculty Association and the California Employees Union, to craft a balanced, equitable, consensus approach to weathering the coming budget crisis, with the greater collective good first and foremost in all our minds. Together we are stronger, divided we are weaker, and our Senate is one place that we all come together, administration, faculty and staff, and students. And we can craft a collective response to continue to fulfill our mission, educating the students that entrust us with preparing them for future and for the challenges ahead, even in the face of severe adversities. The next time we meet to convene our university community for a new academic year, we will have a new president. We should be introducing one today, but President Marishta gallantly agreed to continue on through the end of the calendar year to provide continuity of leadership in addressing the COVID-19 crisis, and I'm very grateful for his generosity, commitment, and integrity in agreeing to do so. In September, the advisory committee to the Board of Trustees, of which I, Jason Smith, Vanessa Yingling, Lisa Booker, and Suzanne Espinosa will be the faculty, staff, and administration representatives, will meet to review the application packages of potential candidates. We will do our very best on your behalf to identify and to recommend the best candidate who we believe, like President Marishta before them, can uphold and further shape the mission and values of our university and our commitment to an equitable, socially just, and sustainable society as we strive to educate our amazing, diverse, inspirational East Bay students. So thank you all for your time and your continued efforts to support our shared governance. Have a productive, safe, and a healthy academic year. Wear your masks in public and wash your hands frequently.